Another live broadcast of the Money Lab podcast from the Six Figure Academy. I'm your host, Wei Hong from the Six Figure Academy. And that little jingle that you just heard was Kayla joining in on the action in the background. Now, this is the podcast where we give you tips, strategies, and interviews with other entrepreneurs on how to create that ultimate six-figure entrepreneurial lifestyle free of bad money stories, money anxiety, and stress so that you can monetize your dreams and execute your genius. Now, if you haven't already downloaded our free ebook from Money Anxiety to Six Figure Mastery, make sure you go to go.thesixfigureacademy.com and get it there. It's the perfect complement to all the things we discuss on this show. And quite frankly, I've been told it could change your life, and it has. Not yours, but other people. Okay, now if you are joining us live today and you are not on YouTube Live, make sure you get on Spreaker.com and download the Spreaker app on your mobile device, or just go to it on your laptop and search for the hashtag #TheMoneyLab so that you can join us in the chat room and ask questions, interact with our guests and me, and even request a specific topic to discuss that will help support you in your quest for that ideal six-figure lifestyle. Now, while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and you can catch us every week. For all other ways to find us, go to the sixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. Now, if there's something that you love about what you hear on this episode today, and I guarantee you probably will, and you know that what you hear could help someone you care about, remember, sharing is caring. So share the show to that person. I'm really excited about who I have on the show today because I've known this beautiful lady for a very long time, and she has been instrumental in quite a few things in my life. And the story that how we met, even we were just talking right before. And anyway, there's going to be a lot of cool things that we get to talk about. But before I have her come on, I want to give you a little bit of a scope or context about who this person actually is. The person that we have on the show today, her name is Jane Tabachnick, and she's actually the founder of Simply Good Press. And what she does is really cool. She helps experts and entrepreneurs get featured in major media and position them as thought leaders. Now, this is really important because if you are an entrepreneur and you want to develop your brand, or even a business wants to create their brand, this is such a critical component of having people know who the heck you are. She also helps experts go from idea to published book, which is then used as a marketing to generate publicity and create profit centers. She is the author of Plain Jane's Promotional Planner and a co-author of Business Leadership Blueprints, and has helped over 150 authors reach bestseller status. And I think one of her secret sauce is that she's capable of helping people reach that bestseller status, which is also critical in your marketing strategy and your plans to get you noticed by your audience. She's also been named one of the top 100 people online by Fast Company, and she has been seen on CBS, Crain's New York, ClickZ, Environment. She's done a whole bunch of things. Okay, and I could go on and on and on, but nothing's better than getting to know the person firsthand and getting to hear it straight from the unicorn's mouth. I don't like words because I don't want to. But welcome to the show, Jane.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Hi, everyone.
I know, finally get you on. We've been talking about it for a really long time, and I've known you for a really long time. So let's kind of bring the audience up to speed as to, wow, I mean, how do we meet? I thought we had met on LinkedIn, but that wasn't even the first step. And you brought it to my attention. We met on some other obscure well, it's not obscure, but it's only known to like the internet marketing community, really, right? Tell from your own perspective.
So my recollection is that we met on a bulletin board, really, because that's what it was in those days.
BBS.
On a site called the Warrior Forum. We were both heavily focused on digital marketing at the time, and we had a couple of online chats. Then we had a phone conversation, and then we never ended up working together. We liked each other. We thought, well, maybe we'll do something, and it just wasn't the right timing or what have you. And then you pop up, I think, on LinkedIn about 3 or so years ago, and we reconnected. I was so happy to hear from you, and we've done some great, fun things together.
Oh my God, have we now? I mean, we probably entertained every possible dynamic of how two people in the world of business can interact with each other. Working with each other, taking we both played the client and mentor role to each other, and we basically supported each other over the last year. We're like family now.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So in your own words, I know I talked a little bit about what it is that you do, but in your own words, Bring me and the rest of our audience up to speed as to what you're up to right now before we dive into your money story as to why, how you grew up talking about and thinking entrepreneurs aren't supposed to make money or don't make money. So let's talk about where you are right now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. Yeah, so one of my passions is helping other entrepreneurs or experts share their stories, share their gifts. Sometimes it's hard for entrepreneurs to do that, and they have great gifts. And if they don't share them, they're depriving the rest of us of their genius and the ability to be helped by them. So I love helping them get the word out about what they do, and also helping them figure out how to monetize it, because sometimes the entrepreneurs we know are just so excited to help, and we all certainly need to make money. But sometimes we don't see all the opportunities there are to do that. So helping them get more visibility through major media, through putting their content out on multiple platforms and multiple formats, and then doing what I call leveraging and amplifying. So making sure that content gets seen over and over again, because there's a lot of noise out there nowadays, and you've got to really break through that to get in front of the right people at the right time on an ongoing basis. I think it's gone from needing to be in front of a prospect 7 times to like 13 or so. So that's a lot of touch points and times you need to be in front of someone before they trust you or are possibly ready to start working with you.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have heard that before, that you need to touch your audience or have the audience be able to touch you at least 7 to now 13 times. Can you explain a little bit about what that actually means? Because that doesn't mean you literally reach out and you touch them.
Touch, wait, let's get that in the camera. Yeah, no, it's not the ET touch. So what it means is any form of basically being visible in front of someone. It could be sending them an email. It could be a tweet, which of course you can't guarantee that they'll see, but it means trying to stay on their radar a certain number of times. So multiple formats is better. And if they start to see you in multiple places, they start to say, wow, you're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes them feel that you're proactive and that you obviously are out there and engaging with people, trying to be in front of your audience and share good content. And I want to share with you a quick story, if I may. So I actually interviewed 4 or 5 Facebook ad experts a few months ago, and out of those 4, let's say it was 5, one of them followed up with me. All the rest I never heard from once again. And it really struck me. And guess who gets my business?
The one that followed up.
The one who followed up. I mean, the other ones have kind of faded into the woodwork, and they may have had a better offer, or I may have interacted with them better, but the one who's followed up, I mean, they were all competent. They all came recommended. I did my homework and vetted them in advance, but that was really incredibly telling for me, because I was ready to buy. I was busy interviewing them. And
wow. So you were actually actively looking for a service that they were providing.
Yes.
And out of all the ones that you spoke to, only one of them got back to you.
Yes. And I started thinking about my processes, and I know we have fallen through the gaps of following up. And so it's something that we've been busy really working on. I changed the process that we use and some different software which can help. And Wei and I kind of connect on the geek level. So there are some tools that can help you do that. I just noticed, actually, I was in Gmail, which I don't actually use for all my business, but I do have one account there. And there's actually a new feature that lets you schedule an email for later. So I was like, oh, wow, that's fantastic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought that was great, because you don't want to reply the minute something comes in. You want to.
Oh yeah, that's the email vortex rabbit hole that a lot of people get stuck in and just never get out of. And then the day goes away and the sun sets, and you're like, I'm still in my email box. What's happening?
Exactly. But I know for myself, if I look at it and think I'll respond later, then I sometimes feel like I've responded when I look at the inbox again. This way, it's like, oh, let me handle the response, set it out for tomorrow morning. It'll go out. Boom.
Right.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is cool. And I love to, like, exactly. You and I geek out on technology all the time, which is kind of like, you're probably geeking out on all the pictures and everything that I was doing all weekend, building up my backup Mac. So I'm not even using it right now, because I'm hoping that this one right here will still, I'm working on fixing this one. But anyway, going back to what you were saying is that, And the cool thing is that, to understand is that, well, the challenge is this actually, is that when you have to have all these different touch points, we also have to remember that every single one of our audience member has their favorite platform they want to be on. So, if you don't have someone to help you make sure you show up everywhere and you only show up one place, then you're actually kind of only getting a fraction of your audience that potentially may be in other platforms, right?
Yeah, well, I have to maybe disagree with you here. I don't think we should be everywhere. I don't think it's possible to do a good job. I think you've got to choose your lanes. I think you have to figure out where your ideal audience is and then focus there. Maybe pick 3 platforms and go with that. And even that can be a lot to manage.
Right. No, I mean, what I mean by not everywhere, just doing not everywhere at once.
No, some
Right.
people think they're told they have to be everywhere. And it's like, no.
It's like a jack of all trades and not even master at none, just master at negativity. Negative gain.
Well, the time sponge of that is just mind-boggling,
Now, if you had the money and you had the resources to have a dedicated team for Facebook, dedicated team for Instagram, dedicated team for LinkedIn, dedicated team for PR releases, press releases, all those different things, then you could potentially in one shot be everywhere because you have teams for every single platform.
Yes, but I would caution that you want to make sure that there is a strategic plan, that they know what each of the other one is doing, and there's some coordination. You don't want to be putting out, the Pinterest or the Twitter team putting out one set of content, not really tying it in with the other. So you really want to be strategic and make sure that the brand has a consistent look, feel, messaging,
right,
like that. So that can be the challenge if you're working with different teams.
Yeah.
So then drive that.
Yeah. So then in a utopian entrepreneur state, okay, let's say we have like let's say have you on top, and then we have all these different teams, but each team has their own leader that meets, everybody meets together on a regular basis, talk about the strategy and the brand, and then they all spread out to, I'm sure large corporations have that. We hope.
Hope, right?
But I think that would be, if you have unlimited resources, I think that would be the only way that you could be everywhere at once at the same time.
Well, yes, I don't think you really need unlimited resources, but you need to dedicate some resources. I actually asked my tribe the other day, you may have seen this, whether they consider expenses on marketing to be an investment or an expense.
Yeah.
And there was, a mixed reaction, because I've been doing a lot of calls with prospects, and I hear the word expense or this, the money issue, which we're here to talk about. Yeah. So I think there's a real distinction between investing in that, the right tools, resources, team, and thinking, oh, it's an expense, I can't do it. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be full time even.
Uh-oh, hold on. Hold on. There's something going on with my
Oh no.
I know. It's weird. Uh-oh. Technology at its worst. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here because I can't hear anything all of a sudden. And then
I see the green meter moving though when you speak.
Yeah, so it's actually, so for those of you who are listening to the audio, it's actually not going live to the podcast right now. It's only live on the YouTube. Yeah, I knew something like this was going to happen because I don't know why I didn't think about this. Here's what I'm going to. So go on, keep talking, and I'll fix this on my end.
Okay, super. Yeah, so what I was just saying is it doesn't have to be huge, and it can be part-time. I think, to make it successful is you just have to have a vision in advance and communicate that with the team, and just really try and add value to the people who you're trying to serve.
Right. No, and I agree with that. I mean, so I know we can go a little bit deeper on that, and we actually are. But since we're on the Money Lab, what I want to do is do a quick little segue into talking about your money story,
Yeah.
because it's so relevant. Because now we started to talk about money and expense and everything like that. I do want to talk about that because that's such a very important thing, a little perspective shift that we hopefully can get people to understand. But let's talk about the title of the show today, which is about what do you call the entrepreneurs don't make money story.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so that comes from my delightful mom. So my dad used to alternate between freelancing, being an entrepreneur basically, and working on staff. He was a sound engineer, so he worked in radio and TV. And so the freelancing part of it drove my mom crazy. And he always did well. It wasn't that he didn't, but she just had this insecurity and fear around money. So she always used to say, well, entrepreneurs don't make money, so I have to get a job. I have to be the responsible one. So that is something that it took me a long time to work through. And I think I still have a little bit of residual on that. And Wei and I have certainly worked together on that money story that kind of played around in my head. But that was what I heard growing up. And so, it's funny how when you have these kind of thoughts, they actually impact outcomes. So at one point, my dad decided he wanted to take a break from the film and TV industry, and he had this love of geodes and stones and natural kind of seashells, things like that, really cool things. So he opened up a store called Stonehenge, but my mom was panicked every month. They had to meet the rent. The money wasn't coming in as fast as they had thought, and they hadn't really planned or weren't willing to hang in there till it turned a profit. So they ended up losing money because they closed it a lot sooner than they probably should have. So that was a big lesson for me watching that, and just the stress around it was terrible, and something that should have been so much fun for my dad, being able to be around all these great products and being able to share them with people, turned out to be just a really stressful, bad experience. So I'm sure I still have some of those geodes and things around the house because it was all pretty cool. And he didn't really impart a spiritual side to it, but I think that was part of it for him. So
Yeah, no, I think I'm back.
okay, good.
Yeah, so so basically what happened was you grew up having this belief, and again, like you said, you and I talked about this at great length for quite a few years now, actually, right? Where the belief system was basically, yeah, that entrepreneurship is tough. Entrepreneurship is, you basically don't end up making money, right?
Wrong, but yes, that was the
Wrong. Yes.
that was the indoctrination that I got, that, and it wasn't a real job. That was the other thing, that it was just like,
Yeah.
playing or being a dreamer.
It's like a hobby.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's nothing real. But look at you now. I mean, you live a full-time lifestyle as an entrepreneur. You're helping, other businesses and entrepreneurs create more success by getting them seen, developing their brand, developing their book, getting the book that everybody has in them out of them, right? As you have done also with me as well. You've been able to help me create a couple books, which is great. You have a lifestyle business. I think you're going to Paris pretty soon, right? To run one of your workshop retreats.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
I know, that is fun.
That's been a dream for a while, but I just want to share with everyone, it hasn't been that easy a transition. And as I said earlier, it's taken work to overcome some of these things. And I really have to give credit to you, Wei. I mean, Wei was my coach for a while, and we really worked hard on my money story and my money mindset. And when I first came to you, I think I was charging like a third of what I was charging. Like, you have to raise your prices. And the thought scared me. But the funniest thing, and I'm sure I shared this with you, but after I raised my price the second time in 3 months, I got off a call with a prospect, and I was just sitting there going, I can't believe this. They said to me, oh, you're so reasonable. And there I was. I just raised my prices again. And I was thinking, gee, maybe I'm not charging enough.
No, and that's kind of really the cool thing. I remember we talked about this, is that you just keep raising your rates until you start to get a little pushback, and that's where you find the new ceiling. And it's not about being greedy or any of that stuff. It's all about understanding what your market is willing to invest in themselves by having you be a part of their lives to create success for them.
Exactly. It's not about being greedy at all. It's really about not only charging a price that is really what you deserve, but also it helps attract better clients. And the incredible thing is, I used to hear this all the time, and it really took me a while to get it, but you do the same amount of work, if not less, when people pay you more than when you're selling things at a cheap price.
Right. And they get more out of it.
And they get more out of it. They have more skin in the game. They're more committed and more motivated, really, I think, to get a result.
Yeah, and they trust you as the expert.
Yeah.
Without throwing monkey wrenches in the way of their own little opinions and everything.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, though, because I had heard that for a while, but until I experienced it, I just didn't really believe it.
Yeah.
But it's phenomenal.
And I still love the testimonial that you gave me a while back about, you were talking about the mortgage in your home and everything like that, and how close we were. I mean, because when we reconnected, it wasn't actually an ideal time for us to work together.
No, it really wasn't. But Wei had a lot of patience and faith in me, so he took a gamble. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then now, I mean, from where you were then until we started working, and then I worked with you on a few things to kind of help, because I mean, having a deeper understanding of what it is that you do and a deeper appreciation made it easier for me to help you achieve greater level of success, to the point where I, of course, I would invest my time and energy and money into having your services take care of my business. And that has actually made an impact in my business as well. So it's been such a cool ride, because it's almost like I helped be involved getting someone to be able to help support my business at the same time I'm supporting them. It's like a symbiotic relationship, right?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Wei.
So very, very cool. So just to bring you up to speed on what happened, for those of you who are listening, and Jane, I'm sure you're probably curious as to what technology snafu just back then and left you in this like kind of a soliloquy moment, where what I was doing was I upgraded. I had to wipe my own laptop, and I had to upgrade the whole technology. So a lot of the things didn't transfer over fully, and so I actually decided to upgrade some of my software technology. And I forgot I was doing a trial of this new audio program that creates a loopback. I have to share this with you, because if you're doing online stuff, Jane, this is a really good. It's called Loopback Audio, and what it does, it takes audio sound from specific other applications and it pipes it into one singular place. And so what I did was I had loaded that. I forgot that I had not upgraded it yet from trial to like a full use. So you can only get 20 minutes before it starts to hit sound and just create all havoc. I really don't like that model, because it really sucks when you forget. And instead of just warning you, say, hey, by the way, this is a trial version. But anyway, so what happened was, while you were talking about your money story, I had to go back, and I actually had to spend $100 to upgrade just now. So I really quickly paid, upgrade, reinstalled everything, and just uploaded. And now we're back in action.
Well, we're worth it. So thank you.
Totally, totally worth it. But I'll have to share it with you. This is a really cool application, actually. It's very, very smart and very, very quick. Better than the one I was using before. And that's why I said, I don't know why I didn't think about this. But anyway, so we're back in the flow. We're back in the, so I think what's really cool about your money story, Jane, is that it's not an uncommon one. Especially when it comes to the world of entrepreneurship. I mean, I say this all the time when I go in front of a room of entrepreneurs and I'm speaking. I usually say, how many of you are entrepreneurs in here? And then everybody that raises their hand, I said, y'all are crazy. Wouldn't you say? Like, there's some days both of us have to talk about this. Like, we feel like, are we just crazy for wanting to be entrepreneurs? right? And then we realize that there's a reason why. But the thing is, the problem, the challenge is being an entrepreneur in this country. This country does not cultivate as a culture. Many cultures don't cultivate us as children growing up to become entrepreneurs. And even when we are in a household that run with entrepreneurs, we're actually in a household, many of us grew up in a household that are entrepreneurs, were of wantrepreneurs. And there's nothing wrong being a wantrepreneur. It's an entrepreneur. It's that middle point where you're going from a corporate person to an entrepreneur, and it's that midpoint, right? That wantrepreneur stage where you're transitioning out of creating a job for yourself and actually having the job work for you or the business work for you, right? So it's to one of the things I want to make sure that people recognize is anybody who has been able to navigate their journey like Jane has, moving from that, also being a single mom, and also because, and for those of you who don't know, yes, she's a mom, raised a beautiful daughter and is all has been able to, and fighting all the parenting and everything like that, and still maintaining her conviction and commitment to being an entrepreneur while serving others at the same time. So it's not a widget. It's not a product that she just throws out there and people buy it. She's actually providing a service. So not only is she dealing with all that, she's also dedicating her time, energy, money. So if you look at it from that scope, Jane, kudos to you for doing everything that you have done. And as you continue to go through that, I mean, just kind of recognize just how cool your life has been. And now you're taking it to a whole nother level, going to Paris and everything. You know, your dream of being able to work and enjoy Paris, one of your favorite places to be, right? From what I recall.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, thanks. And, I'm so glad you mentioned the basically creating a job for yourself, because for years, that's what I did as an entrepreneur. I basically created a job for myself. And it's really just in the last, I would say 2 years, probably since working with you, that I've really been trying to set myself up more as a business and to have staff. A lot of my staff is either freelance or part-time, but instead of, I was doing it all myself, I would burn out and it wasn't scalable. And there were a lot of things I was doing I didn't enjoy. And I kept thinking, oh, it's faster and easier and cheaper, I'll do it myself. But it really wasn't, so I'm a slow learner when it comes to things like that. I'm a quick study with technology and other things, but in terms of setting up the business and getting out of my own way and the money story, it's not been a fast process, not a fast learner. So,
well, and the thing is, the bad money stories, the money anxiety piece, it's the reason why it's a challenge. And you're not alone in that. I mean, it took me, my story. I mean, I got to a point where it was like I was borderline homeless before I kind of said, okay, I got to do something about this. I was like days away from being evicted, and then at that point I couldn't even feed myself, and having to go through that journey. And even then, it wasn't an immediate turnaround. It took years for me to kind of like figure out what is that sequence, what is that formula that is universal enough. And then, and then finding out that, because when I finally figured it out, I think, oh, that's just my unique thing. And then when I started to talk to clients, and I just happened to talk to one client that had a similar issue, so I kind of took him through the same process I went through, and I saw a shift. And I said, wait, there's something there. And now it has, years later, it has now turned to something like this. But I mean, it's not something that can be learned overnight, because it's so unique to everybody. Everybody has such a unique sequence and approach as to how they create their money circumstance, right? So
yeah. Very true. Yeah. I actually took screenshots of my bank balance when it was in the negative, so that when I'm telling my success story, I can say, look, here, and like your French fry story. I remember when I interviewed you for your book, I mean, I've been there where, my bank, I bounced checks and, the cash flow wasn't there. I had a client or two who hadn't paid me. I even had clients at the time, but they hadn't paid me. They were doing whatever they were doing with their money story and not paying me on time. So I had no money, and it can be kind of scary. It's the roller coaster.
Yeah. And would you say like a bad money story and money anxiety was actually one of the main reasons why clients couldn't pay you? It's almost as if you weren't letting money coming in.
I take a lot of responsibility for the fact that I don't have continual flow with the money. So I would say that, but it's also setting things up in such a way that you minimize that. For instance, when I work with A lot of the PR clients work with me on a retainer, and I just put that on an auto bill. So I know exactly when it's going to come in. I don't have to worry about that. And it's also really hard when you're a small enterprise to have unpleasant conversations with clients, like to chase them for money. If you're trying to have a good working relationship with them, you kind of don't want to go there with that. So I actually have someone else who I bring in who will handle that with them, because it lets me keep a clean relationship with my client, and then I'm not stressing over it, because when I stress over the money, it's not something I want to share with a good client relationship or even with a prospect. So I try and minimize it in the way that we set up our engagement so it's easier. And we also take a number of different types of payment, and we'll set up payment plans for people. We understand the cash flow issue ourselves, so we try and make that easier for clients. And again, it can come back to them seeing it as an expense and not an investment, and that can be what stops them from paying. I've been thinking about this more this week with the conversations I've had with a few prospects, and I think it's a big factor.
Yeah. And there's something interesting that I want to point out in what you were saying, is that a lot of people will say, okay, well, I just want to eliminate money anxiety, or I want to eliminate the bad money story. And it really never goes fully away, because as you grow, different circumstances will trigger different types of money anxiety. The key is, what I'm noticing here is that you now have systems that can help you manage it. So you can recognize when it comes up, you can actually do something about it. Whereas before, it would just spiral you into this dark place, right?
Right, exactly. And it's interesting because sometimes, so I use PayPal, and if you use any credit card processor, you'll know that they take a chunk. And some people are like, well, I'd rather get a check because they don't take that chunk. I'm like, no, I'd rather have it come in automatically. That fee is worth it to me, knowing when it's going to hit my account, that it's there as cash. I can use it right away. So that convenience and that knowing for me is worth the fee. So I look at that fee as just, again, an investment in my business. It's like paying someone to manage it for me, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm paying them so much money. It's kind of like when you pay a lot of taxes. Of course, we never want to do that. But then the good news is it means you made money, most likely. So,
I love this. This is so cool. I mean,
you have to see the positive side of that. I've always said I want to pay a lot of taxes, because that means I made a lot of money. Because, of course, as a smart entrepreneur, you have a great accountant. So
yeah, this is so cool, because as you're talking, I'm getting chills, because this tells me there's been such a huge shift, because the old Jane would get so caught up on the fees. It's like, I mean, those fees and everything like that. But people don't realize, when you get caught up on fees that you can, by the way, write off at the end of the year as a business expense, and it all comes back anyway. Those fees, getting caught up on the fee, is a symptom of money anxiety. Not recognizing the fact that if there's a service out there that's facilitating money coming in for you, absolutely pay for that service. Even if it's 10%, if it makes your life easier, right?
It's your fees. Raise your fees to cover the fee. I mean,
oh my God. Jane, who are you? This is not the same Jane I first met years ago. Holy cow. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, I hang around with you. Amazing things happen. Soon I'll be playing volleyball on the beach.
All right, cool. We can play together. We can play a co-ed match.
Cool.
So, okay, great. So what I want to hear about then is, okay, so we obviously you still live in your home. We didn't lose it.
Right. But and we can say it, when we first spoke, I really thought that I was going to be forced to sell my home, and it was very stressful.
You love your home too.
I love my home, and I really hate moving. So,
Right. And there's something to be said about that, is that when there's anxiety and there's stress around losing your home, and you recognize that that's just another symptom, which then, if we don't address it, you could. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, due to their anxiety, bad money story, they've literally made terrible decisions that kind of facilitated their fear of losing their home. It's kind of like that guy in the movie that keeps talking about, we're going to die. And who dies first? It's that guy.
Oh, absolutely. It's such an incredible thing. We're so powerful, and we don't acknowledge that all the time. One of the first times I recognized this was, I had my first job out of the fashion business was for this small advertising agency. And I was the business development person. And there was this other guy who was like a sales guy. I think that was how we kind of defined things. And he had this concern that the company didn't take credit cards. And he always had people who wanted to pay with credit cards. I never had that happen. I never worried that we didn't take credit cards. It wasn't part of my consciousness. And I was sure that he was attracting this.
Yeah,
That was the
totally.
only, no one else in the company had this issue.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to me. And I was just struck that it had to be this, vibe, this thing that he was putting out, like, please, please don't ask for a credit card, please, please. And it'd be like, yes, they want to pay by credit card.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I know. And there's so many different levels and ways to talk about it. On an esoteric level, when you're putting out that energy, that frequency, that vibe, as you were saying, that's what you attract. I mean, that's how resonance happens. If you look in the physical world, frequency, there's resonance that have complementary frequencies and then incompatible frequencies. And so what happens is when you're putting out a particular vibe, then guess what? You're going to attract a particular type of resonance, vibration, frequency, right? And then aside from that, on an unconscious level, what you're doing is you're slowly influencing your unconscious decisions, behavior patterns, your stance, your physical representation when it comes to those types of things that you don't want if you don't get it, if you don't have that awareness. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so super cool that that you noticed that. And actually, because most people just see that, like, oh yeah, what's this problem? Right. So, okay. So we were at a point where you recognize that, okay, I have this money story running. I'm about to lose my place. And then there was one particular, what would you say was the big shift that happened within you, aside from working with me and stuff like that, but just within you yourself, that kind of like, you looking back, you said, that's the Kickstarter that kind of turned it around. However fast or slow to get to where you are today. What was the biggest, like, kick that could help somebody who's listening say, oh, that's what I need to watch for. That's what I need to look for. That's what I should strive for.
Good question. Well, working with you definitely was incredibly instrumental and helpful. I don't think I'd be here without your help. So thank you. But that said, in addition to that, I think it was really just, and this is something I'm still working on, but just really giving myself a vote of confidence, saying, I have this. I don't necessarily have it all on my own. So part of the process that I've been going through in the last couple of years is really, where do I really need the help? Because especially someone who is a single mom, and I'm really a stubborn Capricorn, and I'm kind of a proud person, and it's never been easy to ask for help. It's like, I got it. I got it handled, but I didn't always have it handled. And it's sometimes trying to figure out where you do need the help, because sometimes it's not always clear. Like, it's easy for me to say I'm not good with accounting, and so yes, I installed QuickBooks last year, and even that has had its bumps and starts, so I think it's really just saying I've got it, but it doesn't mean it's up to me to do it all. And I think that's a huge shift for me. So really trying to figure out where the best place is first to get some help. And what I really want to say, and everyone has probably had some experiences like this, that I've hired some people who are very dynamic, very good at what they do, but they weren't for me. So what I've learned is be really cautious of the one size fits all solution. Because it works so well for them doesn't mean it's right for you. So quick story, years ago, I hired an organizer, an office organizer. I thought I'll just get organized, get more systems. Well, what I didn't realize till after she came in was that she was used to organizing like small to medium-sized businesses. So like an idiot, I followed all her instructions. I bought like 400 file folders. I had like 5 clients at the time, and I had to number all of them. I just gave away the file folders a few months ago. I'm like, I'm never going to use these in my whole lifetime. Plus, they were all like that mucky green, and I've got pretty colored file folders.
Aesthetically, it didn't work for you.
Well, it was not just aesthetically. It was a massive system that wasn't for me, didn't work for me, and it didn't even scale down. So that's just a fairly obvious example, but it can be a sales system or even some kind of a coaching program where they say, do this, do that, and it'll work. And you have to really be careful and make sure that it's tailored to your business size and where you're headed. So it'll scale in the short term and the longer term, if possible. That's not always possible, but also that it's a fit for your lifestyle, your work style, and all those kind of things, because it isn't always,
Yeah. No, I mean, as you're talking, I get, because I'm, when I don't have technology issues, I'm actually listening. And so I got myself a little lost in my thought about my team and what I went through and everything. Like, and you're so right. I mean, there's no shortage of talent in this world. Absolutely not. And there's nothing wrong with people that aren't a fit. They just aren't a fit. And I think one of the things that people need to recognize, that, and energetically this will create more prosperity, is recognizing the fact that when someone's not a fit, doesn't mean they're not a good person. It doesn't mean that they're not talented. They're just not a good fit. When you have oil and water mixing together, doesn't mean water's bad. Doesn't mean oil is bad, unless it's like, crude oil. But even that's Mother Earth, right? But, it doesn't, just because they don't go together doesn't mean they're bad people, or they're just, because I hear it all the time that the reasoning behind it doesn't work, or it's not working with them. And they would just let out this stream of expletives. And I said, look what you're going to attract if you keep doing that, And I think the same thing happens when it comes to money. The same thing happens when it comes to business, is when you put out that vibe or that frequency, or like you were saying, the vibe, right? You end up creating more of the challenges instead of honoring the fact that, oh, they're just not a fit. It totally works for someone else, just not me.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah. And that's totally okay. It's super okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that one piece that you were talking about in terms of that little post that you did about that. I think I was the first or second comment on that one. I think it was the first one. Was that the first one?
You were the first, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I said, oh, I know they answered that one already. Where you were talking about marketing and PR expenditures. Is it seen as an expense or an investment? And I would love to, before I share what I think about that, because it's such a cool topic and such a very important thing as an entrepreneur to embrace and listen to and pay attention to. What was your take after seeing that dynamic and all the different comments that came through? I mean, what's your perspective on, obviously, I mean, I know, but let's hear it from you directly.
Yeah. So I, for the most part, see all of the things that I do to promote and grow my business as investments.
And why is that? Can you lay out like the sequence of why that would be?
Yeah, I think there's a negative connotation and a kind of resentment around expenditures, necessary expenses for your business. But you can't be in business without spending money. Like a classic example, I think, is when Vistaprint first launched, and maybe they still do this, but the printing company where you could order business cards for free. Maybe you had to pay shipping, but it had, the whole back was all about Vistaprint, and people would hand these out. And it's like, if you're starting a business, you're an entrepreneur, and you're not. I remember someone once said to me, he wasn't willing to invest in the business cards because he wasn't sure if the business was going to work. Well, it's definitely not going to work if you're not going to spend $29 to get a simple, it doesn't have to be fancy, just a simple business card that doesn't have someone else's branding on it.
Talk about confusion, right? Let's create a little confusion. If they happen to look on the wrong side first, they say, oh, Vistaprint, wait, who's this guy?
Exactly. So, and good for Vistaprint. It worked. They got their name out there.
Oh my God, I think it was probably one of the best ideas ever. They probably got some pushback from the investors or whoever was involved. It's like, wait, we're spending how much money giving away free card? What? But I think on the ledger, if the CFO basically said, okay, every free order is considered a marketing expenditure, right? Then it would actually totally work. And the numbers probably proved it, because Vistaprint, when they first started, that was years ago, and they're still around today going strong.
Years ago, exactly.
Yeah. I think that was their debut. They came out with that. They started with that, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. So, I just feel it's really important to invest in yourself, not just in tools and resources, but also in training and going to events, the right events, obviously, but trying to put yourself out there where you'll meet either thought leaders in your industry so you can grow yourself as both an entrepreneur, as a person, as a thought leader and network, but also where you might find prospects. So, and it's not necessarily inexpensive to do that, but without doing that, without making that investment, it's hard to see how a company could grow or how an entrepreneur could grow themselves. So I just see it as a really important investment to make.
Yeah. And I think one of the problems is nobody really teaches entrepreneurs on, hey, if you're spending money, make sure you actually have a system or strategy in place to track the ROI, right? To track like, okay, I've done this X, Y, Z, and I've taken a lot of young millennials through this process, and they're like, oh my God. And I was like, it's not rocket science, but you have to understand that there has to be a return. Otherwise, you're basically spending money doing volunteer work, right, for your business.
Right. Or you're kind of throwing it out there, not knowing if it's money well spent, if you're not tracking it in some way. And it can be hard to do, but one of the first things I'll do is if I got an email the other day and I said, oh, how did you find me? And they told me who referred them. I said, okay, great. So just trying to keep track of where referrals come from or why people reach out to you.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I got a second tier, which just reminded me. It's listening to you just reminds me of all these things I have to do. I got a second tier referral from someone that doesn't even know me, but they got referred to my card got passed on to them as and along with a testimonial, and they pass it on to their clients saying, I heard nothing but good things about this guy. I don't know this guy. And that person that they passed it on to actually they became a client of mine. So I actually have to go and meet that person, and I haven't done that yet. So this is something that I so even then I have to do that. But it's such an important piece that that you raise here on making sure that you pay attention to how that works, because that's how you scale and that's how you systematize. And I suspect over the last couple of years, because you started paying attention to all those sequences of what you already knew how to do, but now you're tracking it, that has actually helped you kind of fine tune and optimize your process, if you will.
Exactly. And, it makes it easier to scale. If something is working, that's a good place to spend more of your efforts. And if you're a really smart entrepreneur and you treat yourself like a startup and you have, or just, your mindset is, okay, I want to put an end game in place. I want to make this business something I can sell. Having that is really important. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs don't think that way. I know I didn't for a while, but now I'm kind of building, we're out there flying. We're now building the wings underneath. So we're putting systems in place and documenting everything for people that we hire, people we bring on board, but also at some point, it'll mean I've got a business I can actually sell. It's not just me with everything up here in my brain, and that's huge.
Yeah, and I love that built to sell kind of like approach, even though you may not necessarily have any plans of selling, but understanding how to, yeah, huh?
Not this week.
Not this week. Okay, but potentially at least you have the option down the road, right? If you build it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
which is an incredible asset. A lot of entrepreneurs don't even realize they could have if they set themselves up properly.
Yeah, and to structure it properly. Yeah, got me thinking again. So
Sure.
I'm constantly thinking like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's some of the simplest things. Like sometimes you want to go like, it took me years to figure this out. Like, there are certain things you do over and over again. Like I might hire, for instance, I might hire someone to write a press release. Well, every time I go to do it, I write the specs out. Yeah. Instead of just making a template. Now I have a template online. I have a form we set up. We use Cognito forms. We've got a bunch of different forms in there. So it's fairly straightforward. Here's the info we need to gather. And I've got a set of instructions written out. So now I can send it when I have a new person. Here are the instructions. Here's the info. Boom. Instead of doing it again from scratch. I mean, that's what we were doing.
Yes.
And half of it was in my head, so it wouldn't take that long to write. But why was I doing that? And we're starting to use tools like that in our email. That we found there are 4 different responses when we're doing a cold email campaign right now, and I've identified 4 different types of responses we get back and replies that they would require. So I've got the template in the email, so my virtual assistant can just go, okay, that's a number one, that's a number two response. And, you know, it just makes it so much more efficient and easier and consistent. And when we see that's working well or not working well, we can tweak the templates we're using to be better and more responsive. But that's really what we've been moving towards. And I just can't believe it took me this long to figure that out.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that a lot of what we found in helping people with their, you know, kind of getting their money anxiety resolved is the fact that, you know, the chaos that happens in the back end is a symptom of money anxiety. It's a symptom of something we co-created on an unconscious level to kind of feed that anxiety piece. And now that you start to streamline everything, and it gives money an easier time to come in. It's almost like a lubricant. Systems will set you free and allow money to kind of flow in with easier without hitting roadblocks on its way coming in. So
I like that.
I know, it's super cool, and because I'm outside of the fishbowl looking in, I see all these things that you're talking about and you're doing, and I say, this is why things are better. This is why things are growing. This is why things are moving in the right direction, because you're doing all the things to allow that anxiety piece to not stick. It's like all of a sudden you slicked up your arteries so cholesterol doesn't stick on the walls anymore. It just flows in and out and just gets out of the system. kind of weird visual, but
yeah, for sure.
But that's essentially what you're doing. You're creating more health in your business, health in your life, health in your money flow. You know.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, it also means you can take the time off. It's like, oh, I can go away this week. When I'm in Paris, Liesl, my virtual assistant, is going to be doing my cold email and setting up, you know, calls for the week I get back, or when I'll take them in Paris. I'll just be 6 hours ahead. So, you know, that's something I didn't have going before.
Yeah, no, this is so cool. I love everything that's going on. And some of the things that you shared today, I didn't even know about. So I'm even more excited. So throughout this whole entire episode, I was getting goosebumps, and I can't wait to go back. Now I really have to edit because there's chunks missing and stuff like that. So I'll just have to take what's coming out of this video and put it into the podcast. But anyway, we're actually 8 minutes away from the top of the hour. It's an hour just flew by despite the tech foibles. And I know you got to get to go somewhere. So what I want to do is let you kind of talk about, you know, the audience, when they listen to you and people listen to you and say, well, how do I connect with this person? Because there's some things that she does. And I absolutely, here's what I'm going to tell you guys. Having used some of the services that Jane has done, I've been able to thousands of dollars of new business have been generated as a result of me simply using, and I have other techniques and other strategies and everything, but just from the book strategies and the promotional strategies and the content and the ideas that she was able to give me, and me showing up and going out there and utilizing those things that she created for me, have translated to thousands of dollars of new business, which continues to pay forward, because the lifetime value of people that come and work with me and work with us here has yet to really been established. But some of the things that opportunities you've been able to open up have been phenomenal. So how do people get in contact with you, or is there anything that they can get from you to kind of understand or experience what it's like to work with you?
Good question. So the easiest way to find me is if you go to simplygoodpress.com. That'll bring you to my website. And I think, I guess I would say, I'd encourage you to poke around my blog. There are some articles there that'll give you a sense of me and what I like to think about, talk about, and I give a bunch of actionable tips. So sometimes it's theoretical, but a lot of times, like, here's how you do this, and you can go and implement some of those things yourself. Yeah, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. You know, and it's a pitch-free conversation. So I love to get to know you, and if you want to explore what PR or having a book could do for you, then if you go to my contact page, you can reach out to me and we can just set something up, learn more about where you're at in your business. And I promise you'll come away with some information and ideas you can use. And if we decide not to work together, that's all good too, you know.
Yeah, but at least they can actually pick your expert brain about how to position themselves better.
I don't like that term too much, but yeah, we can get together and meet, and I'll certainly offer some insight into where they're at, and I think what some of the things that are possible for them. And
yeah,
maybe share a cool tip or tech geeky thing as well, because there's always that.
And what would be some of the reasons why? I mean, what's the biggest challenge that you kind of help people solve when it comes to their business and PR and book and all those different types? And what is something that they need to have an awareness of, that, okay, this is why I need to talk to you?
Yeah. So one of the things about PR, so it's called earned media. So we're in what's been called a trust economy. So you know how if you're looking for a new restaurant, if you're going out to dinner over the weekend, you'll go on Google, you go to Yelp, you'll look for those reviews. And PR is the third most trusted resource. So the first is recommendations from friends and family. The second one is online reviews. So you might see a Yelp review from someone you don't know. And then the media is the third trusted source. And this is from Nielsen's Trust in Advertising survey. So people trust the media. If they see someone in the media, it makes them instantly way more credible. Their value goes up. People want to work with top people, with experts. So being in the media, people assume that you are, you probably are. And you know, the incredible thing about the media is, and there's a blog post about that somewhere, you have to be in it to win it, which was a New York State lottery slogan for years. I live in New Jersey, but when I lived in New York, that was the lottery slogan. And getting press is not that hard, but you have to be intentional about it. Unless you've cured cancer and the press is going to come to you, or something that monumental, just having simple things that you do. And there are some free services you can subscribe to make sure that you're getting press. Like Harrow is one of them. Help a reporter out. And I've got a great blog post about how to write great Harrow pitches on my blog. So, you know, there are free tools that you can use if you're not ready to hire someone like me or get trained in how to do your own PR, but be in the game. Get to know some journalists. I bet you already do. I've got a blog post that, you know, in your, whether it's in your social network, on LinkedIn, or at your LaTip meeting, or wherever, you know, your church, synagogue, what have you, your yoga class, there's a journalist there. There's someone who writes for a top publication or a traditional media outlet, or has a blog or a podcast. So it's not that hard to find someone who you could come on and share your expertise with, share your tips, and that is something that gives you more credibility.
Right.
And how, in front of more people.
Yeah. And how would that actually help their business? Because I think the biggest thing is, well, making that translation is like, how does that help my business?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So the beautiful thing is, when you are in the media, what happens is it's like a good friend is referring you. So you've got that, it's like the halo effect. So it's like standing next to the rock star in the room. They may not have known you yet, but because you're standing next to the rock star, you're in the media. Now you're a known entity. You're instantly trusted. So people will want to do business with you. They're pre-sold on working with you. It's incredible how that works. And they'll come to you expecting to pay a premium price. They don't often negotiate when they've come to you after seeing you in the media. They don't try and negotiate. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, no. And for anybody that doesn't believe that you can get clients from a book or from any kind of PR work and everything like that, I'm actually living proof that what Jane has done actually translated. And I haven't told you recently, it just happened again, where we had someone that went through the newest book, reached out to me directly and said, I read your stuff on the book. I think you're the answer. And it was like, you're right. The PR stuff, the marketing, all that stuff comes into play, and it creates a positioning piece that when they show up, they're kind of pre-sold already. And if you like those type of leads, as opposed to those cold leads that have no idea who you are, then one of the best ways to do it is do what Jane's talking about, is pre-positioning. And that's really kind of a very powerful piece that makes lead generation and closing deals that much easier and that much quicker and that much more efficient. Right.
Exactly. So you need less touches. You know, we spoke about those 13, 14 touches. When you use the media and you do it right, then you need less of those touches to get people pre-sold and ready to work with you.
Right. So remind me when we're done here, I need to talk to you about our new virtual rapport building system. I think one component is what you do should be absolutely integrated in there as an option for some of our clients and everything like that. So
love to.
Let's make sure we do that. Okay, great. Well, we have about a minute left. Actually, it's already done. We're at top of the hour. Thank you so much, Jane, for coming on. I'm so glad we're finally able to get you on. I've been talking about it for a long time now, and it's so cool because I have a feeling that we'll have you back on again, maybe later on the year after you're back from Paris, so we could talk about that journey and see how that has shown up and just kind of see the progression as we go, or maybe even next year. Who knows? Okay, we'll just keep checking in to see how things are progressing. So thank you so much for
Thanks so much for having me. Bye, everyone.
Okay, so that's our show for this week. And again, if you found this episode to be valuable and know of someone else that could benefit from this, what we talked about today, or what Jane talked about today, which absolutely I'm sure you do, make sure you share it. Review us on iTunes, Spreaker, or like the episode on YouTube Live. And did you know we even have a Facebook group called the Money Lab? Okay, join us there to dive in deeper into bad money story elimination strategies. Exactly. A lot of what Jane has done is exactly that and has created some very cool success, aside from saving the house, but to create a lifestyle that she's always wanted to see dream. Like she said, it's a dream, right? So, let's see. And that's a wrap. Take this week to apply the knowledge from today. Have an amazing week. And we'll catch you next week on the Money Lab podcast, live podcast, where we will have Eric Barajas and how he transitioned from a corporate job in cars to his own business in ink. Yes, ink. This is Wei from the Six Figure Academy and Jane signing off.
Bye.